Yes, the things that Mr. Davis handed me have some wonderful names. Consider this. Detroit, 1998. Oak Cut. Numerous dignitaries, singers, and artists have gathered at the Opera House to pay tribute to the Queen of Soul, but a lot of worry goes on behind the scenes. Sitting in her dressing room, Aretha Franklin appears irate and silent. She disagreed with the name on the show, which was the cause. She looks her assistant in the eye as she closes her beauty case and declares, "If he sings tonight, I walk." The hallways were filled with terror as the event attempted to reorganize itself. Aretha could take over a room with a glance, a word, or a pause. For decades, she kept quiet about the betrayals, egos, and backstabbing. However, the Queen of Soul began addressing individuals by name as she grew older. These battles left profound wounds and were not little altercations. Beyoncé, a woman who has previously attempted to usurp her position, is the first person on her list. What sparked a royal altercation? The 2008 Grammys were supposed to recognize the fact that two well-known individuals shared the stage. Beyoncé welcomed the iconic Tina Turner to the stage with a powerful presence and a bright grin. "You are the queen, Tina," she declared. Another queen, Aretha Franklin, sat calmly across the nation while the crowd cheered. For Aretha, who had put in more than 40 years of hard effort to earn the label of Queen of Soul, it was a direct challenge, but for most others, it would have been a pleasant compliment. She had won the crown via her civil rights activism, her gospel background, and her unparalleled singing prowess. It was more than just a nickname. Giving it to someone else, even if they were in a different field, wasn't merely thoughtless, it was impolite. Aretha made a rare public statement within hours. She didn't mention Beyoncé by name, but it was obvious who she was referring to. The music industry was rocked by her accusations that it was disrespectful and an insult. Those who knew Aretha well realized it wasn't diva behavior, but some admirers believed it was. Ego wasn't the only factor. The goal was to let go of the past. Aretha battled to have her voice heard in a society that frequently attempted to silence Black women. Now, without a second thought, a younger artist who had admired her as a child was recreating that tale. Aretha made it plain that she would no longer share a bill, attend concerts where Beyoncé was the featured act, or be photographed with her after that. She wasn't afraid to express her true feelings in private. According to friends, Aretha referred to her as a gifted girl who had forgotten how to bow. However, that was only the beginning. The next person on her list was once a friend, not just a competitor. Ray Charles made her appear horrible on national television one evening. Aretha Franklin's studio was giddy with anticipation for the pair in the mid-1970s, but it would never happen again. Aretha Franklin and Ray Charles, two soul icons, were scheduled to perform live on national television for the first time in their lives. It was promoted by the network as a historical moment. The practice had been simple, courteous, and even enjoyable. They sang together with ease, laughed, and shared experiences. Everyone was prepared for magic. However, when the cameras were released, something changed. Ray, who can always make things up as they go along, began to violate the contract. He added flourishes, extended the bridges, and altered the tempo in ways that had not been done before. What could have been a close and lovely duet instead became a musical trap. The show rapidly lost equilibrium despite Aretha's immediate attempts to make adjustments, as she is a genuine professional. Aretha knew everything was planned, but a casual observer may have assumed it was impromptu. In an off-camera conversation with the directors, Ray reportedly remarked, "She's great, but not quick on her feet." After that one line, everything was different. Aretha was enraged. The foundation of her art was poise, control, and expertise. It was unpleasant and impolite to be ridiculed in public, especially by someone she looked up to. She never performed with Ray again, not on television, not on tour, and not even in private. Despite never saying it aloud, friends claim she informed them he tried to turn a duet into a solo and me into his punchline. Aretha Zamblaya, Kasampivli versus Biddleman Sambelta, or to assume this on man and vision that's great, but them three just littles to call the own perjury to make an abysmal or droof and too so. Luther Vandross, the next musician on her list, using incisive language instead of any trickery. In the early 1980s, Aretha Franklin was preparing for a major return when she and the studio head got into a heated argument. The Queen of Soul was prepared to demonstrate her regal status to the world. Clive Davis had Luther Vandross in mind to spearhead the effort. Vandross was a young, gifted producer who was fast gaining notoriety. Vandross has a reputation for having a great ear and making arrangements sound seamless. At first, the contest appeared to be thrilling. Aretha gave fire and Luther brought grace. But very immediately, sparks turned to smoke. Luther had very specific tastes. He desired perfection in every word and sound. Conversely, Aretha was honest from the heart. When singing, she didn't have a plan. The tension was mild at first. Takes were length, remarks were muttered, but it soon became more intense. everything ultimately fell apart during a late-night drill. After becoming enraged, he reportedly turned to Aretha and told her to stop over-singing. "Don't say anything. No one tells the queen how to rule," Aretha remarked, getting to her feet and staring him in the eye. She simply walked out. The excitement behind the scenes was intense, but the record jump to it was ultimately completed and became a hit. Every take was a tug of war, and every melody was a battle. Aretha never forgot that they never collaborated again. She didn't hold back when speaking in public. He made good music, but it was hell to make. The strain appeared to be creative friction to those outside the group, but it was more profound for Aretha. It has to do with respect, or the absence of it. It was less stressful than what transpired next, though, as Keith Richards, the following artist, attempted to wipe her memory with a single quote rather than confront her in the studio. To commemorate decades of music history, guitar hero, rock icon, and troublemaker, Keith Richards sat down for an interview with Rolling Stone in 2007. This was the slur that was heard all around the world, but even his most ardent supporters were taken aback by his response when they discussed current soul. He spoke the words, "Soul died with Otis Redding," without any consideration. Aretha is still here, but it's not the same. Aretha Franklin regarded it as an eraser that destroyed her art, her life's labor, and her enduring significance, while others saw it as an angry rock star mired in the past. Worse, it was from someone who had witnessed her shift the genre while sitting in the front row. Aretha remained silent. In a rare radio interview shortly after, she stated, "Some people confuse loud guitars with depth. This was her signature blend of sting and elegance. May God bless his heart." The line gained popularity. Behind the scenes, Aretha was boiling. She felt denigrated by a man who had been in her shadow and whose entire career had coincided with hers. She has won more Grammys, topped more charts, and toured with the Rolling Stones longer than any other member of the band. At the same moment, Keith was present, placing her beneath a 40-year dead man. According to people close to her, she declined all offers to co-headline, refused to attend any award shows where Richards would also receive recognition, and refused to discuss the Stones at any upcoming events. She never mentioned his name again, and never paid the Stones' bill together. For Aretha, heritage was something sacred that she fought for, not a game. The next performer to attempt turning it into one, however, was Dionne Warwick. Aretha Franklin was already suffering from a sickness in 2017 that rendered her well-known strength ineffective. The funeral drama that reignited old passions was the result of this. She was conserving her energy, cutting back on her public appearances, and choosing carefully which fights to enter. However, a news article that upset her greatly then surfaced. 5 years prior, at Whitney Houston's funeral, Dionne Warwick, another Golden Age veteran, diva, and star, had said something scathing. "Aretha wasn't there when she was supposed to be," she remarked. She failed to mention that Aretha was in a lot of pain, mentally exhausted, and unable to leave due to swollen feet. For Aretha, Dionne's remark was a smack in the face of what the rest of the world considered to be a casual remark. Although she remained silent at the time, she penned a 5-page statement to the Associated Press in 2017, something she rarely did. Everything was stated in the letter. She accused Dionne of fabricating drama, spreading rumors about a holy event, and saying flat lies. Wasn't a sudden development. These two well-known individuals had been at odds for decades, with silent sarcasm, tension behind the scenes, and chilly receptions. However, Aretha was prepared to lose it. One statement she made at the end of the letter went viral in the business world. "Dionne knows what she did. Only a velvet-gloved blade remained, with no further explanation or conversation. That was the end of the fight. Not with forgiveness, but with closure, because when Aretha declared she was done, she meant it." What's the next person on her list? He met her in Detroit, where she lived, rather than at a funeral. This is the town kid who didn't express love, Eminem. Detroit was home to Aretha Franklin, but she was Detroit as well. Her voice may be heard at soul clubs, record stores, and churches. It resembled the city's heartbeat. By organizing benefit performances, supporting up-and-coming artists, and traveling the world to represent her community, she never stopped giving back. When Eminem became the face of Detroit for a new generation in the early 2000s, Aretha expected at least an acknowledgement, a name drop, a clip, or something. But it never did. In his songs, Eminem discussed rock luminaries, hip-hop titans, and even other Detroit residents, but he never once mentioned Aretha. It appeared to be a harmless error to the fans, but for Aretha it was something else, erasing. In a field that wasn't designed for her, she overcame challenges. She cleared the path not just for women, but also for him and all the other Detroit artists who needed to establish themselves. Attendees recall a covert meal when the rise of Eminem was discussed. It is alleged that Aretha shook her head, leaned back, and murmured, "He knows who I am." He decided not to give a damn. When asked her opinion of his lyrics in subsequent interviews, she simply replied, "Noise." There was never any violence or public unrest. Everything was always quiet and peaceful. Because if Aretha said it was all right, it meant something. If she didn't say it, it also had a meaning. What was the most recent betrayal, though? It wasn't from a rock star or an artist. Billy Joel, a smiling man with a piano, gave it to me. The pair that were unable to attend. Aretha Franklin had always looked forward to Billy Joel as an inspiration. She loved his melodies, his ability to command an audience, and his genuine passion for music history. He was one of the few contemporary artists, in her opinion, who genuinely honored the great works and artists who had gone before him. Aretha was therefore intrigued when the prospect of performing together arose in the early 2000s. It was promoted as a celebration of pop and piano-driven soul, including two of the largest musical artists. With cautious optimism that they might get along, she consented to the first rehearsal. No, it wasn't. From the beginning something didn't feel right. Billy seemed pleasant, but he was too easygoing. He was becoming too kind in his jokes. During a brief break he reportedly urged, "Come on, Rel, loosen up," while laughing. To cheer yourself up, take a shot of whiskey. Neither she nor Aretha ever drank. She had never allowed her sharp edges to fade, and had always been admired for her job. The remark was hurtful in addition to being impolite. When she got up, put her belongings away, and walked out of the practice, everything was silent. The piano lid slamming shut, and the silence were the only sounds audible. She said to a close acquaintance that same week, "He plays the piano like a poet, but talks like a fool." The show was abruptly cancelled. Not a follow-up, not a press release. She didn't hear of Billy Joel again after that day. Both musicians did not perform or send out invitations or duets, because the friendship ended when respect was taken away, and for Aretha, respect was what produced the music. Why hasn't Aretha raised her voice yet? For many years, Aretha Franklin let the music speak for itself. The tracks Chain of Fools, Natural Woman, and Respect all feature her vocals. Her induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame made her the first female inductee. However, each high note had a backstory, an issue, or a quiet she decided to hold on to until now. At the age of 76, with the end in sight, and the crown still on her head, Aretha made the decision to speak the truth, not to exact revenge, but to set the record straight. Because sometimes the most powerful song is reciting the names out, and even kings and queens are harmed. Which name caught you off guard the most? Do you believe Aretha was justified in harboring these resentments, or did they simply result from the cost of her greatness? Tell us below, please. Even though the Queen is no longer with us, her voice is still very important.